Here is the Chief Executive Officer of Treasury Consulting LLP, and today we would be covering a dedicated topic again on Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code IBC 2016. But herein again we would be discussing one of the fallacies which we have in IBC, which is contingent commitments. Although we very well understand that Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code is in the limelight and there is a lot of action which is happening in Insolvency and Bankruptcy, like I think on Friday, when DBS India, which is an Indian subsidiary of DBS Singapore, which is again a very good bank, has put some Ruchi soya bean company in NCLT. So I was just watching the business channels and I got to know that approximately 200, more than 200 companies, top companies which are in NCLT right now because of the proceedings. And one company whereby Supreme Court himself has given a judgment that they need to submit roughly 2,000 crore to save from IBC is JP Group. But today we are not discussing here that, because you must be finding a lot of videos about Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code on the YouTube, wherein somebody might have just copied the draft code and put it on the YouTube. Today I am going to covering a very interesting and very serious things about IBC, which is contingent commitments or contingent consideration, or shortly known as earnouts. These three all have the same meanings. Let me write here, which is contingent commitments, or it is also known as earnout. A lot of times on our YouTube channel we are kept saying that the insolvency and bankruptcy proceedings has nothing to do with the financial market. As far as the financial market and accounting is concerned, both are not synced with each other, and here is an example of that. Let me give you a small example to prove my point, and after giving my point you can yourself make a judgment whether this is right or wrong. Let's assume a company, two companies, and you know both name of both. Suppose we have one company which is Leela Hotel, and suppose we have one company which is Marriott. Assuming today the valuation of the Leela Hotel is like that, the tangible valuation is approximately, say, I'm not taking it in Indian rupee terms because you are buying an American giant, say $1 billion, and intangible valuation is approximately $5 billion. Total valuation is approximately $6 billion. Let us assume a case, Leela buy a company Marriott. Whereby the agreed rate between Leela and Marriott is, say, the acquisition price in our technical language is approximately $3 billion. So what Leela would have done in that sense, Leela would have divided this $3 billion into several parts. But what several parts? I would like to divide this into several parts. Marriott Hotel, who wanted to sell, which is a target, and Leela, which is who wanted to buy Marriott. Marriott is saying that we are creating Marriott is saying that our new hotels which are in the US, they have designed in such a way that all the diplomats will love staying here. On the other hand, Leela is saying that our rooms are better than Marriott Hotel, so we don't take your point. So there is a contention. It's a point of contention. But Leela internally, but not on the face of Marriott, acknowledged that the Marriott hotels are better managed, they have a good service, the client base which they have is much better than even what Leela Chanakyapuri would have, but they don't want to tell on the face of the Marriott. And Marriott himself understand that Leela do acknowledge that, but they don't want it to acknowledge on the face, as this will inflate the price. So they enter into a win-win situation. To resolve this win-win situation, what they do, they will say, let's have an earnout. So the cash price which they would be paying is $2 billion. Suppose the earnout which they would be paying is $1 billion. Let me put a star here. Now what is that earnout is, if after buying the Marriott, within 1 year, the total room occupancy of the hotel would be greater than 95% as far as the diplomats is concerned. So we are talking about a high-end room. if that would be greater than 95%, in that sense Leela would be paying the balance amount to Marriott. If it is less than 95%, then Leela will not pay that. Assuming Marriott is having a very good confidence, assuming Marriott is saying that we have designed our room in such a way, the kind of marketing which we have done is wonderful, so Marriott agreed to it. Take an example. So total amount is $1 billion. Now the question is, this $1 billion could have paid in three ways. Paid number one, it could have paid in the form of cash, it could have paid in the form of stock, and it could have paid in the form of blended. Blended means both cash and stock. It's very difficult to determine the ratio, it's not always 50-50. What will happen? Now let's come from insolvency perspective. The tangible valuation of Leela was $1 billion. Out of this $1 billion tangible valuation, the cash component was only $300 million. So, but they bought a $3 billion company. We already understand that Leela is already in a mess. They have more than 4,000 crores of debt, and several of their properties in the good cities of India is already being sold only because they've not been able to pay the funds. So what Leela has done, only to take up Marriott, they have taken a funding, they have taken a debt funding of approximately $2 billion, which we are showing here also. Because this is an earnout that's supposed to be decided 1 year down the line when you're going to buy the hotels, and once you're going to start the acquisition accounting, then you would take up a call, boss, the total room occupancy is greater than 95% or less than 95%, then you will take up a call. So why to bother us now? Today the challenge is to assemble $2 billion, which we assembled from iBankers. Simple. Assuming what happened, due to any geopolitical issue, example, the North Korea attacked US or maybe Japan, US come in between to save Japan, US attacked North Korea, and maybe because of this China also entered into a war. So due to some geopolitical reason, economic downturns or anything, the market crashes. Actually the market crashes. And what did happen, that the value which Leela has paid to Marriott, which was almost $3 billion which they paid, that left almost $0.8 billion, which means approximately 4 times they paid more because of the economic and the political downturn. What did happen? Leela India, which is an Indian which is principal, also faced the same issue. The sales has dropped, the travel has reduced, because during the wars the first thing would have happened is the travel would have reduced. Like nowadays IT companies have almost stopped the travel of their seniors, because there's a big cost which is coming on the book versus that used to be. What had happened? Leela faced a downturn, and suppose their sales would have declined by 50%. Here comes Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, which you must be thinking. And suppose the people, those who funded the Leela, let me write here. Suppose the people, those who funded Leela are these 3 banks: JP Morgan Chase, Citi, HSBC, and Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, and SCB. This is a consortium which have together funded $2 billion to Leela. And now they are clearly see that due to that geopolitical issue where Leela has not played any role, but Leela cannot be side away himself from that. So what did happen? They decided to take Leela to NCLT, National Company Law Tribunal. Now, if you would have read this carefully, if you would have read this very, very carefully, then nowhere in the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code it has mentioned. Today we are not here discussing that whether after 1 year Leela would be in a situation to pay this $1 billion or Leela would not be in a situation to pay $1 billion. We can have n number of permutation combinations, whether Leela would be able to pay or Leela would not be able to pay, and so on and so forth. But if you would have looked at Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code carefully, you would have get to know that earnout is completely missed in insolvency. In fact, the E of an earnout is also missed. In fact, we don't have E of an earnout. Now if Leela, all these so-called big banks, if they have put Leela to the NCLT, National Company Law Tribunal, in that sense, Leela can simply raise their hand like I am raising, and they can say, boss, I'm not interested in paying this $1 billion, even if this 95%, the room occupancy is greater than 95%, because I'm insolvent. I'm already in NCLT. And the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code in India do not talk about that. That is why I keep stressing that if somebody would have copied from chapter 11, at least we would have copied correctly that contingent considerations or earnout has to be taken into consideration. If today a company is buying another company and due to some geopolitical issue, due to some business issue, economic downturn, or could be any n number of issues, this company is getting insolvent. And then after getting insolvent, this company is simply raising the hands and saying that no, I'm not interested paying you the money. This is absolutely unethical and wrong, because they know that the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Proceedings of India, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code in India, and the body which is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, even not talking about earnout. Insolvency and bankruptcy is a wonderful thing, and I hope you are reading one business newspaper in a day, because while reading that, you would be making out a sense that there is a very good line which has been mentioned in Insolvency and Bankruptcy. The line was that in the next 5 years, Government of India would be submerged from the litigations that would be coming from IBC and GST. These litigations are growing at a faster pace. Today you look at any M&A done by any big company. In fact, in India, the M&A of Ranbaxy and Sun Pharma, there are several American BPO companies who have done several M&As. In fact, all American ITS companies, Cognizant, Sapient, Genpact, Accenture, Cognizant, WNS, they have all done one or another form of earnout in the books. But Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code do not talking about the earnout. Here we have only covered that issue. In fact, in the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, we are going to be cover the expected credit model here again very soon. We are not talking about that. At least Leela, assuming this 95% of the occupancy would have reached, even if Leela, even if the Marriott wants, okay boss, you don't pay us $1 billion, you pay us 10% of that. Even Leela is not authorized to pay that, because the code is not talking about that. Henceforth, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code would have two career options. One career option is basically when you are just passing the exam, either limited exam or the final exam, and you are turning out to be the IP. I don't know how many IPs are getting the business nowadays. You understand that how India market is work and how to get a business in the Indian market. I'm not sure how many IPs are getting business. Second, where you would have business is when you see IBC from a practitioner point of view. When you see that these are all 10 things which are happening, and as a practitioner I can make the value addition here. So this is how it happens. We as a company is having a dedicated presence in the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, and our existing website is all scheduled to amend, and hopefully by February 2018 you would have a wonderful website in that regards. But again, we continue to post our videos on various topics. In case you have any requirement, www.treasuryconsulting.in. My mobile is 9899242978. Skype ID is Rahul5327. My email is rahul.magan@treasuryconsulting.in. Thank you, and in case of any requirement, do call us. Thank you, and have a wonderful time.